Welcome, Arizona Cardinals fans, to the Revenge of the Bird wrap-up show. I'm your host, Seth Cox. With me today, my co-host, Tyler Nickel. And Tyler, we haven't done this in a couple weeks, extenuating circumstances. But we're back this week and talking about a Cardinals win as they hang on to beat the Washington Redskins 31-23 in a game that many are calling a return to form. Um, you and I don't agree with that. Now, we agree that it's a return to the winning form, but we see it as finally a realization that the approach and the style needs to change. But before that, how was the game yesterday, Tyler? You were there. How was the crowd? How was everything?
The crowd was good. I mean, there was a decent amount of Redskins fans, but it wasn't overwhelming like if a Dallas or Pittsburgh or somebody like that came to town. So it was good. It was a good game, good energy. The roof was open, which makes the stadium beautiful. I think it completely transforms it. So it was a great game. Yeah, great to be there.
And the game itself, you look at it and the Cardinals came out and went on an 8 minute and 17-second drive, I believe, to start the game. Something that and maybe that Bruce Arians script is finally, working. But then they kind of went into nothingness again offensively. They were able to sneak a field goal in before half. And that's when you kind of saw the change at halftime. They came out in the second half, and they were much more evolved into the quick hitting offense that you and I have talked about that maybe they need to be focused in on, especially with the decimation of their offensive line. And they really rode hard to get this win.
Yeah, yeah, I really like what they did with the offense because of, like you said, the offensive line is pretty decimated right now. I thought DJ Humphries played a really good game at left tackle. That all being said, but they ran a lot of wide receiver screens to Fitzgerald. I mean, I can't even count how many they ran. They did a lot of dump offs to David Johnson. They didn't try to air the ball out quite as much, not as much play action necessarily. Just a lot of quick hitting passes and rely on David Johnson to get you yards. I mean, he's one of the best players in the NFL, if not the best player in the NFL. So you have to feed him the ball. I know people are, I heard some people on the post game radio show that's on Arizona Sports commenting that, you know, they don't like that David Johnson is being rode so much and they want to see the receivers get more into the game. And I don't really understand that line of thinking considering David Johnson is far and away your best player, even over Fitz. He's better than Fitz at this point in his career. So you got to ride that hot hand. You got to get the ball to your playmaker. I mean, you saw that screen where David Johnson lined up wide and they hit him and he brought it all the way for a touchdown. I mean, he just kicks in those afterburners and he just flies down the field. That's the kind of play that he can make that not necessarily anybody else on the roster can.
And you saw defensively, it was something I talked about as a kind of a key to the game. Um, they needed to create a turnover in a short field for the Cardinals offense, and we saw that finally happen. Um, the Skins come out, drive down the field with relative ease in the first series of the second half. The Cardinals make a little bit of headway, but not much. Punt the ball, and you're sitting there wondering because the Cardinals had to settle for a field goal on a Carson Palmer bad read where he forced a fade route to Floyd. It was more of a flag route to the corner, but he threw it up to have Floyd go make a play, and Larry Fitzgerald standing in the middle of the end zone, wide open, uncovered. And they had to settle for a field goal there, and then they come out, don't really move the ball well, punt, and now you're sitting there thinking to yourself, oh, here we go. The offense stalled. The defense can't get off the field on third downs. And a guy that's, was maligned last year but has really showed up this year outside of the stupid punting offsides last week was Calais Campbell, who had Marcus Golden recovered it. Um, man, he looked like a 350-pound lineman trying to get the trailer unhitched as he was running that back. But it set up the offense for the next, Michael Floyd touchdown. Then there was some exchanges back and forth offensively. But I thought that was finally something we haven't seen from this defense. They've been, the number one defense in the NFL, but they haven't gotten timely stops, and they have not been able to up the offense on a short field. And when your offense is struggling, like the Arizona Cardinals offense is, they need those short fields. I talked about it in the preview. You look at that Dallas Minnesota game. Minnesota's offense is abhorrent. I mean, it's just awful. And they still had a chance to tie the game at the end because their defense and special teams set them up repeatedly on short fields, giving them, easier chances to score. And then you look at what the Cardinals have been doing this year. Yeah, the defense isn't giving up a lot of yards. They're not giving up a ton of points, but they're not helping the offense in that way of flipping field position. Now we can talk about Drew Butler and how terrible he is and how, he's not really helping the defense in the same way, but we haven't seen that it happen this week. And I thought that was kind of outside of, what we'll talk about at the end.
Yeah, I think you hit on a good point. The defense just hasn't made the timely turnovers and the big plays necessarily. I mean, you've seen a lot of flashes from Chandler Jones and Calais Campbell, but they need those timely, fumbles to be created or interceptions to be made. And we haven't seen a ton of that this season, but I thought the Calais Campbell sack fumble obviously was big. And I thought the Patrick Peterson interception to end the game was just like a big sigh of relief. He made a good play on the ball. You didn't have to worry anymore about them possibly throwing a Hail Mary at the end of the game into the end zone. None of that mattered anymore because he made that big interception that I thought was just really timely, and it was something that the Cardinals desperately needed.
2 plays before that kind of set up the game that way, and that was 4th and a half of a foot, and Bruce Arians elects to go for it. I think they were inside their own 40 when he did that. Was it a risky move? Maybe. I don't think it was that risky for a couple reasons. They had 3 timeouts left, I believe, at the time. Maybe they only had 2. But if you don't get it, your defense just held up on a short field and forced a field goal. They could probably force another field goal now if you want to rely on Chandler Catanzaro to make a game-winning field goal. That's probably a different, conversation for a different day. But also it was, half a yard, if that. Like, it wasn't a long way. And I talked about it earlier. You have maybe, and, for my money right now, the best all-around player in the NFL. Give him the ball and let him make something happen. Whether or not it works, but they went to the left side. They went behind DJ Humphries and Mike Upati, and he gained about 15 yards. And then we're sitting here watching the game, or texting in the game. There's a lot going on, and the consensus was they couldn't afford to just run out the clock because that wasn't going to happen. But they came out and then threw a lot of passes, mm-hmm. which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And you saw go ahead.
I was just going to say, interesting isn't the word I would use technically, but I thought it was kind of silly. I mean, I know this is Bruce Arians. That's what he does. He's going to air the ball out. He's going to take risks. I don't see the need to take them in that situation. I still don't like the play call that saw J.J. Nelson catch the Hail Mary for the touchdown. I mean, it's easy to say you don't like it when the play doesn't convert, but I'm going to say it even though it did convert. I thought it was a questionable call. I don't see the need for it. yes, it happened, and they got lucky, and they got out of there with the win because of it. But I just didn't see the need for it.
Well, and it was an interesting call because they had been winning so much going short. But that, in fairness, if you're going to start running these short routes and you're going to start working the ball out, you have to be able to win downfield every once in a while.
Right.
Again, we can debate the time of it and the timeliness of it, but the result was what they needed. They got a touchdown. There was still a ton of time left, and Kirk Cousins, you know, we were laughing here at watching the thing because you look down and Cousins almost had 300 yards passing. He had a touchdown, the late pick, but it was just one of those games where you're like, oh wow, the Cardinals, look like they've held Kirk Cousins in check, and then you look down at the stat sheet and you're like, holy crap, like this guy's had a nice game, and I think that's kind of been the Kirk Cousins season in general. Like, holy crap, this guy's thrown 30 touchdowns, and but I understand the deep shot at that time, but if you're going to take it, I guess it was second down, right? So I guess if you are going to take one shot, it's probably better to do it on second down than on third down and then have to punt at that position. You like the fact that at the end of the game, they drew up something that they haven't done, and that was using DJ Swearinger to blitz, and they did it in back-to-back plays that ran the same blitz. And what's the left tackle, Viston, whatever, I can't remember, he's from Virginia Tech, that was replacing their backup left tackle who got injured during the game, had no idea what was coming. And that's just intelligent game planning and play calling from James Betcher, recognizing that they have their third string rookie left tackle in, and you're going to try to take advantage of it and bring pressure off the edge. And when I talk about pressures and the stats of pressures, what irritates me is the play earlier in the game where Marcus Golden got to Kirk Cousins, couldn't finish, and Cousins rolled out and completed a pass for a first down on what was like 3rd and 6. And then they ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. Pressures that lead to negative plays, that's an important stat, and that's what that was at the Swearinger, creating pressure on Kirk Cousins, making him throw the ball early and behind his player. And Patrick Peterson made the play and like you said, sealed the deal in what was a much needed win.
Yeah, I thought it was a good overall effort from some of the players on the defense. Like you said, I thought they were more creative with their blitz packages. I thought Betcher seemed to do a little more, or maybe the inside backers were just more active yesterday. Dale Buchanan had a couple of really nice plays in the backfield, tackling running backs and whatnot. Kevin Minter had a sack. He played well again. So I thought there was just more creativity than we're accustomed to seeing yesterday. And again, it could just be activity that we just saw. So, but yeah, I liked what we saw from the defense overall. I think it's something to build on, even though they gave up a good chunk of yards, as you mentioned.
And then one other thing we wanted just to talk about real quick was Jason La Canfora came out yesterday with a report, timely as always, that Bruce Arians is pondering, I don't even know how he worded it really, but he's considering retirement at the end of the year. I wrote about that. I personally, like, not inside sources, not like talking to anybody. I just think that Arians should retire at the end of the season for health reasons, nothing more. Just enjoy his life after this. He's in a high pressure business, high pressure situation. He's already had, 2 health issues this year that have led to the hospital. But many believe Arians will mull retirement after season and will be urged by his family. This was from CBS Sports' Jason La Canfora. You and I talked about it before the show. Where's this guy getting his information from? Is it his barber's dog or whatever? Like, where's it coming from? The only thing I could think, and it's the CBS tie, would be maybe Bill Cowher, but I don't know. Like, where do you get this? Like, oh, his family's going to urge him to retire. Spoken to, like, you think Bruce Arians is sitting down and having coffee with other coaches right now? Like, he was trying to figure out why his team's 4-6-1, and 3 games out of a playoff spot in a season that they were Super Bowl favorites, throughout the league. Whether or not he should retire or does retire is a different story, but I just felt like the report itself was kind of in poor taste and at poor timing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really understand the timing of it. I don't know. It's not like the family is leaking any information. I know we see his son on Twitter spouting off about refs and whatnot, but nothing has leaked about what the health issue has been. So why would anything leak about him pondering retirement or them wanting to push him for retirement? It doesn't really add up. I think it's maybe like a educated guess that there's going to be people. Because obviously his wife is going to be worried about him, so she's going to at least propose the idea to him since he's been to the hospital twice this year. So it's not like a far-fetched idea that that's going to be pushed for, but I don't know how you can. But again, I don't want to question somebody's integrity that they're going to make something up completely. In the case of Jason La Canfora, I just don't understand where he's getting that report or why he had to report it when he did.
Yeah, and that's the main thing is, whether the report's accurate or not really doesn't matter, but the fact that, it came out before a game and, right before a game and kind of, I think the insinuating the family part's the weirdest part to me. Like, who's he talking to? Is he DMing with Jake Arians, who you talked about is very active on Twitter, talking about how bad the refs are and things of that nature. It was an interesting report nonetheless. But it's just one of those things that it's going to come with the territory for the next, if he does return, for the next several years, that it's going to be, is this the last year? Is this the last year of Arians? Especially as he continues to go to the emergency room every 3 months. So, but overall, I think you have to be excited, a little bit after what happened yesterday. But you have the Cardinals now at 5-6-1 and in the 10 spot, and 1.5 games out. It's going to be tough to make up that half a game. So they're basically 2 games out of the wild card position. Honestly, Tampa Bay is leading the wild card. Well, second wild card position.
The Giants are, I think, leading it, and then Tampa Bay.
The Giants. Yeah, the Giants are in the 5 spot. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in the 6 spot and tied with the Atlanta Falcons for the NFC South lead. This is just a really screwed up year of football. So buckle up. You got Miami next week in Miami, and then you come back home and get New Orleans. And then, hopefully at that point you'll be 7-6-1 and you'll have a game in Seattle that could really make or break the Arizona Cardinals season.
Yep, agreed.
So, well, that's it from us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back hopefully next week after the Miami game. We'll see. I'll be in Vegas, so I don't know, maybe not. So, but we'll see what happens. So have a good night, everybody.